We are living in a broken world that has systemically marginalized women and girls, especially women and girls from vulnerable communities.
Folks, that weird moment you just witnessed there is from the 2021 United Nations Climate Change Conference, also known as the COP26 Climate Summit, held in Glasgow, Scotland. It is 100% real, as hard as that is to believe. Our world elites are now parading around a creepy doll named Amal, and she's supposed to represent a young Syrian refugee fleeing her country, not over all the violence that's going on there, but over climate change, because that's what they're worried about in Syria, okay? Meantime, there's more climate craziness. A Canadian doctor recently diagnosed a woman as suffering from climate change. How do you suffer from climate change? Yes, you heard me correctly. She's the first person in the entire world to be diagnosed with climate change. Maybe because that's not a disease. The whole thing's ridiculous. Of course, climate change is not a medical condition. The 70-year-old woman has several issues: asthma, diabetes, and times of heart failure issues too. But the crazy doctor is attempting to link the woman's breathing difficulties to climate change. So we're in dangerous territory here when medical professionals are advancing far-left politics instead of medicine. Well, I want to welcome in my panel now. Conservative commentator and spokesperson for Turning Point USA, Isabel Brown, is with us. Also, Director of Operations at Grand Old Memes, Camille Wead, is here. Isabel, Camille, great to have you both on the program. Isabel, I'll start with you. Your reaction to all of this climate nonsense, especially diagnosis of you now have climate change?
Well, Grant, I think you hit the nail right on the head there by calling this nonsense. This has very little to do with science or reality, but instead we're fabricating the rules as we go here when it comes to climate change and, most importantly, alarmism that comes about with that change from the radical left today. We've also heard a lot from COP26 this week that climate change is racist, of course, like everything else in the world. This too is racist. So what you're seeing today is people posing as true scientists, but not actually interested in following the science, despite what they may say.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of these climate czars is John Kerry. He was the former Secretary of State. You'd think he'd know about a host of issues, Camille. He was asked about the Uyghurs, and this is a situation of genocide going on in China. China is wiping out the Uyghur population. They are Muslims because of how they believe. We should really be talking about this on a daily basis, every news program in America and beyond. It's not getting the coverage it deserves. But John Kerry was asked about it. Listen to what he had to say.
The use of forced labor in Xinjiang for building solar panels. How did you address it, and how did you kind of overcome that in reaching this final?
Well, we're honest. We're honest about the differences, and we certainly know what they are, and we've articulated them. But that's not my lane here. That's my job is to be the climate guy.
He's a climate guy, I guess, Camille. That we've seen satellite photos of the Uyghurs being loaded into trains, bringing back visions of Nazi Germany. Camille, please help me figure this one out.
Well, I can't help but laugh when he says we're honest. I mean, my goodness, you know, the thing that's so upsetting about all of this is the downright lies, the political agenda that's being pushed through with the climate change narrative that the Democrats are trying to own. I mean, in 2000, get this, scientists had predicted that children born today would not know what snow was. In 2008, Al Gore predicted that the Arctic Circle would be completely melted by 2012. In 2011, the Washington Post had predicted that cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. would bloom in the winter. I mean, my goodness. I went to law school. I didn't go to Ivy League school, but I had a friend of mine that went to Harvard Law, and they paid thousands of dollars just to have their professor tell them the world would end in, get this, 7 years. It's unbelievable. Can we have science without politics, please?
I think, Camille, there's somebody out there that said the world was going to end by the end of the week here, and we're still here. So, Isabel, you know we love the word nonsense, right? So let me play you this climate activist, Isabel. You can respond to her.
when we're talking about climate justice, it has to include feminism, it has to include class inequality, and it has to include racism. We have to think about everything, the same patriarchal, rich, racist system that we are in. This is what caused the climate crisis, and so we have to dismantle that in order to achieve climate justice.
Well, you kind of brought it up, Isabel, if you could understand her through her stupid mask there, but you summed it up, Isabel.
There's a lot to unpack there, Grant. There's a lot of fancy-sounding academic words, and that is the tactic from the left in order to make this sound like a scholarly, educated conversation. But in reality, if any of these people actually cared about any of the buzzwords this young woman, not to assume her gender, is listing in this tirade, China would be the #1 target for racism, for abuse against women and a lack of feminism in their country, for class inequality and continuing to push people under the big thumb of government, and of course climate change, as they are the #1 contributor to carbon emissions, more than every other country in the world combined on an annual basis. Yet you barely hear the word China be mentioned at any of these summits, conferences, on social media. It's all a big joke.
You are spot on with all of it, but I'm still laughing from we should not assume her gender. We're all going to be in trouble for calling her a woman. That's the sad reality of those loons over there. Isabel Brown, thank you. Camille Wead, thank you as well. We'll see you both again real soon.